Hi, good afternoon. This is Marlene with Dixie Quilters and welcome to my channel. I am working on the Civil War reproduction fabrics with Civil War Sampler by Barbara Brackman. Barbara Brackman. Okay, I've been talking about it now for how many months? I don't have to go back and look. It's been a long time though. We're on block number 30. And this one is going to be the H is for hospital. Now that's pretty clear. They actually use green for the symbolism of a hospital setting. And in Barbara's book here, it does talk and shows some pictures, must be photographs. Michigan State Relief Association at a Virginia Field Hospital. And it has a quilt airing out on a tent to clean one of the comforts, the quilts. So flags communicate. In those days, you had flags that you used for communication. I know in maritime history, there's a lot of flags that you could run up your boat and it would indicate certain things. I don't quite know what, but this H is definitely a symbol of a hospital. White banners indicate the familiar signal of surrender. Yellow flags indicate a hospital's no-fire zone. And then here is an excerpt from a young Kate, well, we don't know she's young, a Confederate nurse, Kate Cumming, that explained their use in Corinth, Mississippi. And this is referenced from Richard Barksdale Harwell, Kate, The Journal of a Confederate Nurse, 1998, Louisiana State University Press. You know, I might have to look that up. I wonder if I can find that on Google. I'm going to. Let me put a note on that. In my book, I'll mark that. Okay, so let's go back to this excerpt from Kate, the nurse. And she says, "We are at Tishomingo Hotel, which, like every other large building, has been taken for a hospital. The yellow flag is flying, which would indicate healing, sickness. She's trying to prepare me. Oh, Mrs. Ogden is trying to teach this Kate woman about being a nurse. She wants to prepare me for the awful scenes which I should witness upon entering the wards, but alas, nothing she could have said or done would have cleared me or prepared me for what I saw." I sort of took some poetic license there because there's a whole paragraph. "Our vocabulary does not have words expressive enough to express the horror." Awful, awful. And then later in the war, the Union Army modified the simple yellow rectangle by adding a green H to alert friend and foe that patients were sheltered below it. So it was the Union Army that started out with the green H, and the yellow flag itself was more universal to both North and South, indicating a hospital being present or sickness or patients. So, and there was an antique crib quilt pictured in the book Civil War Women. Who's talking here? Let's see. Could that be Barbara Brackman? It says, "I have no evidence that this pattern, a combination of log cabin and log fence, held any symbolic meaning, but you can color it in symbolic fashion." Okay. Well, we're making it an H, and we're making it green. Okay, so that I'm going to look up later, learn more about this Kate, the Journal of a Confederate Nurse. That looks interesting. And our next one is number 31, Empty Spools. And here they are. Pretty much basic spools. You know, there's been a lot of patterns lately with spools or canning jars. I like both of those ideas. Let's see, did I have one? Oh, yes. I did it in my basic navy blue. And, of course, a little low volume beige background. You know, it doesn't seem to be square. I wonder if it is. Yes, it appears to be a little bit taller than it is wide. Actually, no, That must be an optical illusion. It looks taller, but it's actually the same. Interesting, huh? So that's empty spools. On one of the renditions, they did it with a linear fabric, gave it more movement, but I just used the diamonds. Empty spools reminds us that during the war's first months, when women set aside their sewing to take up textiles for lint and bandages, remember we talked about that, they'd scrape the fabric and make lint to put into wounds to sop up, drainage. And I'm thinking as a nurse that how could you possibly clean out the wound and get those germy things out of there? My goodness. Anyway, so they were making supplies, their spools became empty, and then where would you get thread? Well, that came from, again, the manufacturing centers, which was the North and Europe. So, the Northerner, Mary Livermore, from the book Sally A. Brock, Richmond During the War, 4 Years of Personal Observation, printed by Carleton and Company of New York in 1867. I would say that would be pretty relevant. Some of these other books that we've referenced have all been in the 30s, 1930s. And there's another, and the quote that I want to bring up is from a Mary Livermore, My Story of the War, printed in 1889 by A.D. Worthington of Hartford, Connecticut. And she says, for a time, she remembers the lint and bandage mania. For a time, it was an all-absorbing topic. What is the best material for lint? How is it best scraped and prepared? Every household had people busy scraping lint and rolling bandages. Wow. So this is a variation of a block published as Spools by the Ladies' Art Company about 1900. Today we call it empty spools, perfect to recall a time when women abandoned their sewing baskets to make lint. Wow, there's a lot of history here. I hope you're enjoying this as much as I am. The one that I'm making is called the Old Maid's Puzzle. Gosh, these look familiar. I wonder if didn't I already read about the Old Maid's Puzzle? Maybe I was just going forward and looking at the book. I'll go back and review it. But anyway, I hope you have a good day. This is Labor Day and wonderful weather, and then we got to start thinking about fall. And for Oregon, that means a hooded rain slicker. So I hope you have a good day. Bye now.